Sorry about that. The freaking phone stopped for a minute. Stopped recording. But, what kind of freaking life, are we leaving for these kids? What kind of life are we leaving for them? That's something that you really got to stop and ask yourself. Is punching a clock fulfilling? Even having kids and stuff like that. All it really seems like, and to be honest, and I know that this is really all it ever really was, is family has been the ultimate form of cope with your reality, right? No matter how bleak reality has been, no matter how dark it's been, no matter how much you might want to just end it all, you stick around for your children, you stick around for your spouse, because you always think about what your death, like how that would impact them. And now you're in a day and age where, again, like, it's not just something that you do. You don't just like freaking arrange a marriage and, just get together and start popping out babies. Some people stupidly think that we should go back to that. And no, because I'm not going to be forced to marry some freaking random arse broad, and I don't want some random arse broad marrying me. The fact of the matter is, once upon a time, people had to be a lot more realistic, and they had to be a lot more tolerable of one another on both ends. And that did not exist in the abundance that you think. And that's why a lot of times, they'd stay together, but they would just be freaking cheating on each other and all kinds of crap. It wasn't really pretty. And in today's day and age, that's even worse, because look at those were day and ages where your principles were enforced, okay? You could get freaking taken up out of here if you broke those principles. Principles are virtually non-existent now in this kind of culture. So, expecting that to work in today's day and age is just not going to work. But what I'm trying to get at here is this. Sure, that was the best cope, and it probably still is to this day, the best cope out of here. But when you really stop and think about it, why do you need that cope? And I'll tell you why. It's because a lot of people, if they really think about it, they know that in their hearts, they know how bad the problems are, and they just don't want to think about it. And so instead of doing drugs or alcohol or anything, they do what people would consider something wholesome, right? They start a family, raise children. But then what do they do with those kids at the end of the day when you think about it? They're handing them over to a corrupt system that doesn't give a rat's arse about making sure they lead a fulfilling life, a balance of work and family, principled, educated citizens, nothing. They just hand them over to the state, and when they grow up, wage cage. Sure, you raised a kid, but all the state was worried about was raising another taxpayer, another slave to the rat race. And you gotta ask yourself, do these people really realize what they're doing? Do they really want their kids to end up like that? Because I don't. I've said this before and I'll say it again, guys. If I did change my mind on kids, number one, I wouldn't have them in the traditional manner. No, I would not marry a chick. No, I would not put my arse on the line over stuff like this. Because I have to be honest, guys. Maybe you think I'm a rational person. Maybe you think I'm a calm person. Maybe you think I'm a sharp-minded person. But at the end of the day, I'm a human. And at the end of the day, I have it in me just like you have it in you. To where if you get crossed, something in you is going to want to get that payback. And let me just be honest, guys. If you've been here a while, you know how bad my struggles have been to get work, to just slightly begin to take steps in a direction where I can get my life together. And imagine finally having my life together. Maybe after 6-7 years or something like that. And I foolishly try and invite someone else into that life. And then because whatever reason, they decide to say, hey, I'm not going to be with you anymore, and that's fine. You don't have to. But then I'm going to take your crap with me. And the kid, by the way. essentially dang near condemning me to homelessness. Let us just say, again, you will find a part of them there, part of them there, part of them there, part of them there. And I'll own my crime. And I'll have my shootout with the police, and that'll just be that. I don't care. You can tell me that I'm wrong, but I'm not going to go to jail after working so hard to rebuild my life and then just have someone else throw it away just because they don't want to be a part of it anymore. You can call it a coward. I don't really give a rat's arse. That doesn't mean a goddamn thing to me. But I'm not going to put up with something like that. So it is for my best interest that if I did decide to have a kid, it would not be in the traditional sense. They would be entirely raised by me with surrogacy, and at most, the female access that they'll have is maybe, grandma access in the form of my mom, and a nanny occasionally. Because at the end of the day, this is the new world that they created, right? With these laws and stuff like that, so I have to adapt, and I will adapt if I chose to do that. I don't care if somebody thinks that's wrong or not. You're robbing them of a mom. And all of the times they get robbed of dads, it's different. At least I'm not freaking blowing somebody, out the freaking window, so to speak. Pulling the rug up from under them, destroying their livelihoods. I was on good terms. I went to the surrogate. We did the paperwork, and that was that. Simple as that. Is what it is. That's how I feel about that. But what I'm trying to get at here is fulfillment. Would I even feel fulfilled even then? To tell you the truth, guys, as a guy who was raising my siblings pretty much, and yes, I understood that at the end of the day, they were, in a sense, not directly, not as much as like my parent, okay? But because they were my sibling, they were my responsibility. Did I feel good doing that? Not really. I'll be honest, not really. It was a sense of duty for me, but it was a lot of responsibility. All I really wanted was freedom. But you hear a lot of people try and say that, well, that's the thing, the freedom sounds good for a while, but then you realize what you want is family. And I think I understand that, but I don't think family has to be, your progeny, like a lot of people like to get through their heads. What it could just be is deep, meaningful relationships with people in general. Family doesn't just have to be your blood family, because you guys should know very well, if you're in this kind of community, that your blood family can absolutely freaking destroy your life or make your life. Some family has obviously done a very good job of making sure that their kids are good. But a lot of us, especially in this community, they didn't do crap to help us. It's almost like everything that they could have possibly done to make our lives worse, they did. It's a goddamn shame. It really is. But, I don't think I feel fulfilled, even with the family. Because all I really wanted so far, guys, is just to learn how to be happy. And I think that once I finally do move, I will be able to learn. Because a lot of the drama will go away. I will be in charge of my own life, so to speak. Is that going to probably get old or something? Possibly. You never know. But I'm sure that I will be relatively alright. If I want to change my mind on a freaking girlfriend, not that I would. I'm just being honest, guys. You're not going to see me. Because here's the thing with me. Like I said, my eyes have awakened. Not just to relationships, but like I said, in the world in general. And I have a hard time looking at something that only sees me as a meal ticket, only sees me as a pack mule. Barely sees me as alive. Unless I'm giving some kind of monetary value. Unless I'm just offering to put myself, lay down my life for them. And then what would they do? They'd walk right over my corpse like nothing happened. You might say that that's just you living on the internet. You're chronically online or something like that. But that's not the case. That's not the case. Because I've seen it happen. I've seen it happen. Fact of the matter is, in the ghetto community and the ratchet community, folks, a lot of times, girlfriends, moms, sisters, they get those men killed. And after those men die, they may cry a little bit. They may put on some theatrics a little bit. But they move on very quickly. Because as far as they're concerned, he did his duty. He defended her honor. She started the problems, but he has to finish it. And I can't live with myself being around someone who sees me like that and acting as though I'm supposed to just worship the ground that walks on. I can't be a simp. I hate simps with a passion. These people admit that they don't see you as a freaking human being, and you worship the ground that they walk on because of the hole that they were born with. That's disgusting. It's a disgrace to your own dignity. It's a disgrace to yourself. But it doesn't really surprise me because at the end of the day, you didn't grow up with a dad. If you grew up with a dad, he probably still told you to freaking chase pussy like a freaking idiot. You know? But for me, I can't let that go. So I can't really see myself with somebody. At most, what I would probably be fine with, if you really think that, I would want a mistress, and not like that kind of mistress, the dominatrix bullcrap. Get that at your heads. I'm talking like medieval style mistress, you know? They're not like officially a sugar baby or something like that. What they basically are is, you know, you just get together, you have your casual fling, and if you need something, as a result of us being, you know, essentially friends with benefits, but with more extra steps, right? We're good. You know, she's not dating, I'm not dating. It's just like we both go to each other, handle stuff, and then we dip. Now, I'd be fine with that, you know? That would kind of fulfill the so-called parasocial relationship. We wouldn't officially be in one, but she know that, hey, she can rely on me for certain things, and I know that I can rely on her to relieve stress. I'd be fine with that. You know, I'd be fine with that. Because at the end of the day, this is the world that they've made. And no matter how much they might want to try and blame it on you, or you need to like do more or something like that, this is what they did. And we have to adapt. Because if we don't adapt, then all that's going to end up happening is we're just going to keep getting played. And guys, make this very clear. I'm sick of getting played. And I think you should be too. Very sick of getting played. You know? But I think I'm going to go ahead and end it here. You know? I know that it's a weird one. You know? It was just something I was thinking about. Mainly just because, I don't know. You know, I think it's a good thing knowing that my manager is going to be a dad. Because he certainly does have a fatherly figure about him, you know? And he's the good kind of father. He's not going to, like, freaking be up your arse all the time. He's patient, you know? He knows when to be stern, though, which is also a very good thing to have. You should know when to be stern, patient, you know? And I'm happy that he's going to have a kid. And I just hope that kid can actually be a light in this world. And not be a light that gets snuffed out. But, as per usual, folks, thank you all for watching. God bless. I will see you guys next time.